Hey, Indy Metro Church, this is Pastor Aaron. And specifically, the elders and I felt it was good for us to record a message directly to those of you that pledged your 2015 giving for next year. And so, kind of as we wrap up this Get Greedy series, now we're starting the new year, and we just wanted to say a special message to you all. First of all, it starts with a huge thank you as we've been reflecting the last week and had a couple meetings together. We've just been blown away by just really what we believe has been a move of God's Spirit to nudge us as a group of people that want to be generous, that want to do kingdom work through our financial giving. And we recognize that many of you have made huge steps of faith, and that deserves a massive thank you from us to you. And we're going to do lots of follow-up for this. So this will be the last time you hear from us or find ways to connect and engage. But just wanted to send a just single message that we recognize and have heard from, and in many cases had lots of meetings with you and heard all of your feedback, how you're wrestling with the Lord, and specifically asking the question, how do your finances reflect God's grace? And we've seen you respond, and with this group specifically, all of you have pledged to give faithfully and abundantly and generously, and we've just been blown away by that. And so I want to say, as your pastor, thank you. And I want to offer a few points of follow-up to help you to move into the new year as we are. Just kind of 3 points for you to reflect on here in early January. What does it look like for you to follow through on your pledges and to do so generously and faithfully and with joy together for those of us that have pledged this year? First, I want to invite you to continue to keep the right perspective. Continue to keep the right perspective. And as we've talked about during this entire series of Get Greedy, we have talked primarily every single week from a position about grace, in grace, for grace, and how grace needs to be the grounding foundation of our obedience, of our follow-through, of our generosity, of really everything that we do. But what that will take for each of us that have pledged our giving is to really center ourselves and continue to weekly, in some cases daily, choose to ground ourselves in grace. And that takes the right perspective for us to do. And so we encourage you to build in times where you literally just reflect on how God has been so good to you. Will you ask yourself that question? And so none of our finances and the decisions that we make should come out of duty or obligation or guilt or, as the Lord says, begrudgingly, but that we would start on a regular basis in a position of asking God to show us how gracious He's been to us and to show us, reveal Himself to us, and that what we do in this right perspective and the kingdom impact that we make together. And so start with this continual finding ways, whether it's through fellowship with other believers, whether it's through note cards, whether it's through scriptures that you might write down in your journal or other places. Remind yourself the right perspective, and that is one centered on God's grace to you and to me, for those of us in the family of God. Second, make the changes to reflect your commitment. And so for some of us, we've made significant increases of faith. We've decided that we want to trust God in whole new ways, and so we've done that. We've pledged in the Big Give, or in the 2015 pledged for the general offering here at Indy Metro Church. But now is the time to take the follow-up, make the changes. In some cases, that may be updating your automated giving. That may be wrestling through making sure that you've set a budget. And so we talked a lot about that a couple of times. How do we go through our budget? What does it look like? Well, that may mean that you literally have a budget for the first time in your life in this new year, and that your giving is reflected in that budget. In some cases, that may be ordering checks. It may be the first time you've ordered checks, or it's the first time in a while you've ordered checks. We're just simply saying is whatever it takes to follow through on your commitment based on your circumstances, whether you give online and you need to automate your giving, you give through your bank, or you give through checks, however that you give, what it looks like to how you manage your finances, take some time right now or this week or the next couple of days to make sure that you've made the changes to reflect what it is you've pledged to commit in 2015, starting this month in January. As we know, the new year started, and this is the best time for us to make sure we follow through on our commitment. So start right now this week and find some time to do just that. And then lastly and quickly, that you would continue to see in place giving as a first priority. We talked about that a couple of times during this series, and from the scripture 2 Corinthians 8:9, that we've been challenged by God's example to us, that He loved us so much that He gave to us, and He continues to give to us first, as a first priority. And so maybe that means in our budget that we give God out of the first 10%, or in some cases, many of us have grown beyond that, and we're giving God to that first. We don't give Him what's left, we give Him first, because He asks us to prioritize our giving. But that may be simply starting with us sharing our commitment. So you're sharing that with others. It's the first time in your life that you've decided to give to God first. That may just simply be in your own vow, your own declaration, that as we start the new year, that God, you want to maintain, or God's asking you to maintain this priority of giving first. And so it's just important for us as we start the new year that we say, God, this year is going to be a year that I declare to give to you faithfully and generously, and I prioritize that first, and I trust you, God, to provide for all the things that I need in my life in very practical daily ways, but those are intercessions of faith for us, that we give first and we trust God to take care of us as He promises to faithfully do for those of us that faithfully give to support His kingdom work here on the earth. So thank you, Indy Metro. We're grateful for all of you that are faithfully giving and supporting, and look forward to an incredible year ahead together as a church.